advice, instruction, and information on alternative wellness techniques given herein is not a substitute for, nor should be mistaken for conventional medicine. Always seek first the guidance of your healthcare professional before endeavoring to add complementary medicine or alternative wellness to your conventional healthcare regimen. Neither Dr. Michael Leike nor anybody associated with Blog Talk Radio, YouTube, or any other social media, blogs, podcasts, and webcasts that Dr. Leike appears on do not necessarily endorse any of the advice given herein.
Coming up next, the conclusion of the Fourfold Path to Enlightenment.
Welcome to the Fourfold Path and Dr. Michael Leike's spiritual tools and technologies that will increase the quality of your life.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Fourfold Path to Enlightenment. I'm Reverend Dr. Michael Leike. We have a very good show. It's sort of a summary, but it's also a conclusion to the whole series. It's not going to be the longest of episodes because of the summary, but I'm so glad you did join us. It'll be kind of good to review, if you will. And we'll do that right after this.
Now in its 10th season, listen and watch Fridays to Dr. Michael's podcast and webcast on iTunes, SoundCloud, Mixcloud, Spreaker, Blog Talk Radio, YouTube, and Facebook.
And we're back. I hope you've been enjoying this journey that we've both been on of the Fourfold Path to Enlightenment based on my book of the same name and available from Amazon as both a paperback and a Kindle. I know it will help increase the quality of your life and the quality of other people's lives as well, especially if you take it from chapter 1 all the way through, as we did with this series of episodes. In brief summary, do your spiritual tools and technologies or your spiritual practice, which consists of mystical meditation or contact meditation, also known as higher consciousness meditation, if you will. First and foremost, it will help increase the quality of your life. It will heal various levels of your mind. You'll become more intuitive and therefore know where to go, who to be with. It will bring people to you to increase the quality of your life at the very least, or for you to increase the quality of their life, and also for your prosperity and the prosperity of others. It's so amazing, just mystical meditation alone, the way I've described it in my books and particularly in this book, is so good. If you do nothing else but meditate twice a day, 10 to 20 minutes a day each time, ongoingly, forever, don't miss a day. You will become more calm, more one with God, peaceful, joyous, more creative, more intuitive. Various issues that you held on all the various levels of your unconscious mind will begin to drift away. They'll melt away into God's perfect light, love, frequency energies. Oh, so good. So good. If you add in the spiritual technologies of scientific prayer or affirmative prayer as described in this current book and many of my other books, wow, then you're adding intention. You're adding intention to hone exactly what you want fixed of yourself or of others. And it's already been proven, which is why it's called scientific prayer. Ernest Holmes coined that phrase. Ernest Holmes, from religious science or science of the mind, brought everything together spiritually at that point. Everything that was new thought at that point culminated, become enhanced with his works, and he had tons of books. Anyway, read The Science of Mind. Even if you ignore my stuff, read Ernest Holmes stuff. You'll love it. Also read Phineas Parker's Quimby if you can get a hold of that stuff, probably from eBay or Amazon. P.P. Quimby, Quimby. He was sort of the first spiritual therapist, and he combined hypnosis, or what was known as hypnosis in the 1800s, or mesmerism, with spirituality, with healing. And he cured uh, thousands of people, but one of them went on, her name was Mary Baker Eddy. She went on, inspired by him, to found Christian Science, along with the Fillmores. So that kind of evolved from whatever Quimby was doing. He didn't have a name for it, but his adage was the reason is the cure. And so getting in touch with the reason why, or whatever happened in your life, took away the paralysis, or took away the ache, or took away the limp, or whatever. So amazing. That was the beginning of scientific prayer, affirmative prayer, if you will, and New Thought. Many people regard Quimby as the father of New Thought. Other people regard Emerson as the father of New Thought. But as a therapist, certainly Quimby. So Quimby, Mary Baker Eddy, she went on to Christian Science along with the Fillmores, and she did her own spiritual science stuff based on Quimby's, and went on to heal, or help others to heal themselves using God's loving energies, of course. Um, it almost became a tidal wave, if you will. In England, it was known as Higher Thought. In North America, it was known as New Thought. And Quimby toured and did these demonstrations in the Boston area. And it was just amazing. You have to read up on that. So him, Mary Baker Eddy, the Fillmores, Christian Science, and many famous celebrities. Not to be confused with Scientology. That's a completely different thing. Just because it has the word science in it, not related to Scientology as well. That's a whole other thing. When I say Christian Science or mind science or spiritual mind science, nothing to do with Scientology. In any case, many people today, famous stars, I won't mention their names. She's got a talk show during the day, and she's blonde. Not black. The black one follows all kinds of other great stuff. New Thought. But this person, her parents were Christian Scientists. How great is that? There were other stars, other famous people who followed Christian Science, which just promoted affirmative prayer. They didn't promote meditation or anything else. And that's unfortunate, because all of these other movements, if you will, the New Thought movements, Science of Mind movement, changed all that. Talking about Ernest Holmes, he changed that. He changed the whole face and feel by encouraging meditation as part of the process. He never really explained why. But, under meditative state, more or less, he gave all these affirmative prayers and scientific prayers. He coined the phrase, I believe, scientific prayer. So you could see this evolution from Quimby, Mary Baker Eddy, the Fillmores, eventually, and there was a few people in between who wrote amazing books. The Dressers, I believe they're called Dresser, Dressers, and eventually Ernest Holmes, Science of Mind or Religious Science. Look him up, read one of his books, just amazing stuff. And then building from there, we had in the 50s, 60s, and 70s at least, Reverend Ike. Oh my goodness, Reverend Ike spoke a lot about wealth, because he spoke to very poor people in New York City. His ministry was, and even though he's gone, I believe his son is carrying on the same New Thought ministry in New York City, catered to a lot of poor people, people who needed hope. And he gave these amazing techniques, which I've been mostly sharing with you, watered down, but just as effective. Look up on YouTube Reverend Ike. Look up on YouTube Reverend Ike Prosperity. You will be taken by this very charismatic person. You'll feel God's energy through him, I guarantee you. So we must never ignore Reverend Ike as being very chief. We're going to just pause for a moment as the siren passes. Hopefully it will. 3, 2. 3, 2. No, I'm going to wait till it goes away. Oh boy, it's loud. 3, 2. We must never ignore Reverend Ike and all his New Thought spiritual movement techniques and his church in New York City, which helped so many people. He, at the time, I believe the 70s, you can watch these videos on YouTube, by the way. He guested on all the major talk shows like Merv Griffin at the time and Mike Douglas and whoever was big, I believe Phil Donahue. Look him up and it makes sense. It makes a lot of sense. Fast forward a little bit to Louise Hay. I'm giving a bit of a chronological history of New Thought, the history behind all of this, which is also Buddhism. Look up Zen Buddhism, Tibetan Buddhism, study all the Buddhist techniques, study all the Eastern techniques, the Chinese Tai Chi and Qigong, Yin Yang stuff, the Tao Te Ching you want to look up. All that stuff became New Thought in the 1800s, 1850s, believe it or not, as their base. The philosophies of Aristotle and Plato and all of them also contributed to what became New Thought, what was channeled as New Thought. Fast forward, if you will, we fast forwarded past Reverend Ike to the 80s, and a lady named Louise Hay who founded Hay House, world famous. Anything and everything that you want to have about spirituality but really New Thought is available through Hay House. In recent years she passed away. I think she was in her 80s, perhaps 90s, but she has contributed so much to the modern day popularity excuse me, of New Thought techniques, especially affirmations. Now, all she promoted, were affirmative prayer, really, but affirmations. She never really said meditate, and in meditative state do these affirmations. She did, however, come out with an amazing book, originally in the 70s and 80s, and then it was reprinted in the 90s on, even to this day, called Heal Yourself, I believe. And in it, she's got all these affirmative prayers and their associated illnesses. So let's say you've got a runny nose. You look up runny nose. I'm not saying that is necessarily in there. Runny nose. Oh, low self-esteem. And then a prayer to go with it, 1 or 2 sentences. So that's very handy. It's very quick. But you really should have the grounding in meditation, mystical meditation, scientific or affirmative prayer that I, Ernest Holmes, Dr. Masters, have brought to the table in great detail in order to have her prayers be more effective. Her combined with fleshing out the stuff of the other people that I just mentioned is really what you want. But there's a lot to be said for what she has brought to the table, the popularity of prayer and affirmative prayer. Simplified, but could be effective, depending on where you are on your spiritual path. It may or may not grab you. This must be mentioned also because around the same time, shortly after the 70s and the 80s, came out the law of attraction, which is only one of so many spiritual laws. And the person that channeled this, I think you should look into that. Not as a thing in itself. It may or may not help you, again, depending on where you are on your spiritual path. But using the law of attraction energies, and if you research through my books, The Complete Spiritual Laws of the Universe, or other people's material, you may find a cohesiveness, how the law of attraction fits in with everything else, how really it has its place amongst spiritual laws. And spiritual laws are like gravity, they're like the laws of physics. Why emphasize one when all of them are related? So take the time to research really where the law of attraction and who channels them, where it lays amongst the bigger picture of spiritual laws. But you may get something good out of that too, not just to manifest, but to raise your energy up, combine it with meditation. Always have the motivation, if you will, to meditate, to be the best you can be, to be one with God, so you can start channeling God, so you can start helping yourself to heal and others to heal through God. That should be the impetus, not bringing objects to yourself. You won't do that. You just won't, because that's backwards. It's butt backwards is the words I'm looking for. So, and if you take the time to study and get the degrees and do the research, you'll realize this. Not one in itself is complete in itself, but everything combined, mystical meditation, scientific prayer, envisioning, is complete. You got the whole package, and you're working with all the spiritual laws just automatically anyway. But I recommend and highly suggest you peruse these books that I've been mentioning along this chronology, if you will, of New Thought Metaphysics, and Science of Mind, what I like to call Science of Soul. And of course, I would be remiss if I did not include my own teacher, the CEO, who has since passed in the last couple of years, Dr. Masters. Dr. Masters founded the University of Metaphysics, the University of Sedona, and its parent company, the seminary, as well, where I studied. Thousands of people have gotten their degrees. So many have gone on to be reverends, many have gone on to be reverend doctors, getting not only their masters, bachelor's, masters, but eventually their doctorates in New Thought, really, practices. I highly recommend you Google and look up the University of Metaphysics, the University of Sedona, and that will lead you to a wealth of information as well. The International Metaphysical Ministry was also founded by Dr. Masters. It's a seminary school. I'm just dying to get into it. No, it's a seminary. And you have to learn and get your degrees from there initially, and then you're allowed to get your bachelor's and your master's, and if you so desire, your doctorate over many years. Very life fulfilling. Dr. Masters, I believe, in my humble opinion, changed the face of New Thought because he fleshed everything out. And much of the information I'm sharing with you today is from the Theocentric course, the postgraduate degree, the PhD, the Psych D I got a doctorate in theocentric psychology. I'm saying this not to brag, but for your information. You can too, once you get your bachelor's and your ordained metaphysical minister thing, and your did I say bachelor's? I believe I did. Bachelor's and a master's, and then go for the doctorate. I highly recommend you do in a particular area. Look these up on the internet. University of Sedona, University of Metaphysics, Dr. Masters, and that you will be led to where you need to go for your education. He fleshed out everything. He filled in the blanks where before they were not. In all of my research that I had to do for my 3 PhDs, my 3 doctorates, let alone one of my master's degrees, I had to. I almost summarized. I put everything together with his material, including all the other people that I just mentioned. I would be remiss if I didn't include somewhere between Louise Hay and Dr. Masters, Reverend Dr. Michael Beckwith, DD. And he's got his own ministry. He's got his Agape, it's called. It's a New Thought ministry in California. Highly recommend you watch the videos, the presentations from there. He was also on a DVD called The Secrets. His information was also in a book called The Secrets. And he was the black man with the dreadlocks. He no longer has dreadlocks. He no longer has hair. I believe that's a choice probably, but nonetheless, I had the pleasure and honor of meeting him years ago in Vancouver, Canada, when he did a presentation at a local Unity. Unity is also a branch of New Thought, by the way. In any case, he brings excitement, he brings energy, he brings his own affirmative prayer treatments to the picture, and his presentations, his Sunday morning ministry, of which there's at least 2 in the morning and 1 at night on a Wednesday night. So exciting. I want you to feel and experience him. He and his services will add to the quality of your life. Certainly, he's channeling God. It's God or higher mind, universal mind, working through him to enhance our lives for sure. As we draw to a close about the Fourfold Path to Enlightenment, Now you have some idea where I was coming from with all of my books and this. It sounds very Buddhist. It sounds very commercial, not my intention, but it felt palatable, I guess is the word, attainable. And on some level, maybe that was my intent. So you're not overwhelmed by all this information. My intention was to present to you something a little bit simplified but deep. If you want to flesh stuff out, at least I've given you the resources within that book and many other books. In review, to pick up from where I left off, so the 3 spiritual tools and technologies of mystical meditation, scientific or affirmative prayer, and imaging, or envisioning, if you will. Use that as a base. Do it for years. And then if spirit strikes, if you are motivated in the first place to approach the Fourfold Path because of these techniques, you can't go wrong because most of your job is done. It's really cool when I channeled all of this. I realized, first of all, the way it was given to me were the Fourfold Path techniques, which is, and which I've been practicing, by the way, thanks to all my resources. Letting go your personal ego will, eliminating or releasing any negative karma from all levels of your mind, identifying with God, and finally, the 4th and most important one is thinking and coming and praying from the mind of God, which is where you want to be. I found when these were given to me, and I was practicing them for quite a few years at this point, as part of my meditative practice, as part of the spiritual tools and technologies that I personally use, I found something happened. I was evolving consciously and not on certain levels, and then somehow the 3 spiritual tools and technologies melded together to be, if you will, a preliminary of building up a base towards that Fourfold Path technique, those 4. And I thought, this is a book. This is a book. It all came together for me. And I know and I feel on some level or another, it will all come together for you. Even if you're drawn to just do the 3 techniques out of that book. Do them. Enjoy them. Live them. And then down the road, so to speak, along the path, so to speak, you may be drawn to pick up the book again, or you may be drawn to revisit that book, and you'll go, oh yeah, this is great review. Yeah, I'm still doing this. It feels good. Wait a second. What are these 4 techniques? These are the actual Fourfold Path techniques. However way the universe guides you, enjoy. It's written in such a way, all my books now, that they have a life of their own, that they are self-contained, and yet they relate to so many other things. I'm so excited about this. I'm so grateful for this. I'm so thankful and grateful that hopefully I could present all of this to you in book form as well as video form in a way that is more palatable, in a way that's more digestible, in a way that you can take in at your own pace. Maybe you want to do meditation for the rest of your life, and near the end of your life you're approaching scientific prayer, or maybe most of your life you're doing the meditation practice, scientific prayer, affirmative prayer, and envisioning combined with all of that, of course. And then later in your life you approach the Fourfold Path, or in the middle of your life. Regardless, it's there for you. It's there to help increase the quality of your life and the quality of others. We'll be back.
Expand your consciousness and awareness with Dr. Michael's more than 40 paperback books of a self-help, mystical, new thought, and metaphysical nature, available from Amazon.
I want to thank all of you for joining me on this incredible journey. It doesn't end here. Even though I've got the series of videos that are whole and complete in themselves, you can look at them individually, etc. I hope that we're going to carry on the conversation on Facebook, on social media, talking about fine-tuning, troubleshooting, if you will, all this material, all this information. And so as time goes on and I do my podcasts and webcasts pertaining to the Fourfold Path separate from this series, I will also record them. Any dialogue, any call-ins you have, we'll talk, because if you have some questions, other people may relate to those same questions. If you have some issues or troubleshooting rather needs to be done, then of course other people do too. Everything is valid. There's no stupid questions. There are stupid answers. No, there's no stupid questions. Certainly everything is valid, and I welcome with gratitude and appreciation your input after the series. And so next time I see you, feel you, experience you will likely be on my podcasts and webcasts and Facebook and Instagram and all of the social media. Maybe in the future there'll be lots more. I suspect there will be LinkedIn, Tumblr, all of those as well. I look forward to connecting with you again and again in the future. Until then, peace and richest blessings.
Welcome to the Fourfold Path and Dr. Michael Leakey's spiritual tools and technologies that will increase the quality of your life.